So, part four. Um, if a person dies, okay, they're going to be confused as to why they're dead, obviously, and for good reason. And they're going to be confused as to why they're still on the earthly plane and still. Sorry, I was digging for gold. Um, let's say that if someone you know died violently and tragically, and they survive first off, and if they tell you that if I tell you before they even pass away, that if and when I die, I'm going to haunt whoever killed me. I'm gonna haunt their family. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Make their life a living hell. I think that people who say that they're gonna come back and haunt, they have a really good reason to haunt. Like if a victim of a serial killer gets killed, they're going to haunt the person until their last dying breath. If and when that person dies, they don't know what to do with themselves because they cannot pass on because they're angry. That's number 3. They if they tell you before they die, if the person who killed them passes away, they don't know what to do. They would tell you to seek them out in the spirit world. I don't recommend you use a Ouija board because using a Ouija board does not end well. I've not used one and I do not plan on using one for reasons of bringing demons in the house, bringing spirits that are negative, that do not end well for the person or people that use a Ouija board. Now, before Toys R Us shut down, Toys R Us had a Ouija board in the board game section of the store. And I was like, what the hell? Why do they have a Ouija board on their shelf? But I know that some people think that it's just a game, a board game. It's not. That if someone tells you, hey, I want you to send me to wherever, or if this person dies, I am going to do this and this and this and this and this to them in the spirit world. And if they, let's say if they tell you, if this person kills me, and if I haunt them and they die, I'm probably gonna haunt their family, or I would cause their death in a spiritual sense. Now, I'm not trying to be violent here. This is how some people would say it. That if they get killed, they're gonna haunt the person that killed them. If they die, they've got vengeance. If they cannot move on, they're gonna be stuck. And I think that if a person is stuck after the person that killed them and this person is in prison, I don't know if the victims will pass on to heaven or hell or purgatory or, you know, just somehow move on or haunt the family. Now, for criminals who killed people, who went on killing sprees because they have some dark desire to do so, that, like Richard Ramirez, who has to kill people for a satanic sacrifice. Now, this is just an educational video, okay? Educational. If you come across a serial killer like Richard Ramirez, who has a dark desire to kill people for their own gain, to make them feel like, oh, I can, kill these people just because I can, because I can do it for Satan, I can do it this, that, and the other. They do it because of a sick, twisted, dark desire to kill people. Now, in regards to war, war can bring out the worst in people, okay? War is not good in any aspect of life. Let's start with the Civil War. From the Civil War to the First World War, the Second World War, the Korean War after that, the Vietnam War. So let's take those 5 wars, shall we? The Vietnam War is known as the most bloodiest war ever, okay? The most bloodiest one. A lot of men that were over in Vietnam, like Richard Ramirez's uncle or whoever, showed Richard Ramirez pictures of gruesome pictures. Gruesome. I'm not gonna go into detail about it, but that is what triggered Richard Ramirez to go on this spree of killing for the devil himself. That he became a good, loving, good-natured boy from either Texas or California. I think he's from California. Yeah, California. Because the Cecil Hotel's in California. That he became a guy that his family did not recognize. He killed people because he wanted to. But in regards to the Vietnam War, I digress about that, is that the Vietnam War and any other war brings out the worst in people, as I've said. That war brings out the darkness that each one of us has. That men will do ungodly things to women, children, to innocent people. Again, this is educational, so I think the Vietnam War is the prime example of how bloody it was. since it was the bloodiest war there ever was, that, you know, it brought out the nastiness, the evil in us. Now, I was not alive during the 60s and 70s during the Vietnam War, but I have always heard that most of the men became different people, evil people. Now, I know they're veterans, okay? But most of them have done really nasty criminal things to the Vietnamese civilians that did nothing wrong. These innocent Vietnamese citizens were going about their life, you know. We as Americans came on their soil and decided to shoot up innocent people because we thought that they were. Apparently, everyone thought that we're going into these villages were part of whatever group that they're hiding the enemy, they're doing this, that, and the other, and most of them were not even holding on to these people or hiding them. And it just surprises me that they would say, oh, we were just following orders. Okay, you were just following orders. I get that you're following orders, but you are following orders from a man at the tippy top of your squad to harm these people. Now, I have respect for veterans from any war, okay? So I am not trying to disrespect any veterans on here. I am stating educational facts. Even though some people might fight over, oh, you're being disrespectful. No, I'm not. If I wanted to be disrespectful, I would be cussing like a pirate. I would make a preacher blush, okay? If I was cussing. I would make a priest cross himself 10 gazillion times, okay? I would make a nun drop dead if a nun heard me cuss. She'd be telling me I'd be going to hell for such foul language. So, respectively, every war brings out the worst in a person. Trauma brings out the worst in people. It gives PTSD and mental warfare up here in your head. Because it wages mental warfare for people who have gone to war. And I'm sure in a supernatural, paranormal sense, these Vietnam veterans are haunted by what they did in the Vietnam, Korean War, World War II, World War I, so on and so forth. They're haunted by what they saw of their comrades that died. Okay? They've seen things that we as civilians cannot even fathom. There are they're going to be haunted by people they've killed till the end of days of their lives. I don't know what it's like to go to war. I don't know what it's like. Nobody that has never been to combat, we don't know what it's like. Now, let's say if the Vietnam veterans came home to civilian life, and I know that when the Vietnam vets came home, when the Vietnam soldiers came home, they were called baby killers, this, that, and the other, and honestly, that's heartbreaking to hear from your own people. And they are traumatized as soldiers as it is. And they're coming home to more trauma. They're being seen as killers. What about the other wars before that? What about the other wars previous? We have not heard any animosity from the previous wars. Only the Vietnam War that I've even remotely know of, okay? Because if you are a veteran, you're going to be haunted paranormally by people you've killed, by your friends that were in your unit. And let's say that if a Vietnam vet, whether they be a nurse, they be a soldier, and they pass away naturally or otherwise, they would probably not go up towards the light or go down towards hell itself. Excuse me. But if you die peacefully or another way, this, that, or the other, nobody knows whether or not you're going to move on. You're either going to stay on earth, be an earthbound spirit, or go to heaven, or go to hell, or be in purgatory. And I have always wondered how and why people function in the paranormal world. Now, if you are an inmate, a criminal in prison, and if your spirit is in in the prison that you're staying at, let's say Alcatraz, okay? Alcatraz, Attica, New York, San Quentin, just to name a few. If you're in any infamous prison, and if as a spirit you step out of the building of the entire building of the prison, or any building of the prison campus, you're going to be sucked down in hell for what you did in life. And because there was like a supernatural paranormal show that I saw in regards to a prison, that if criminals die and become spirits, they cannot go through the threshold of the prison's main doorway, or whichever doorway they cross. They're going to go straight to hell because of all the things they did in life, as I said. Murders, robberies, and whatever else. They're going to go to prison because when they're in spirit form, when they're a spirit in the prison itself, they're going to go through the same process, same cycle, the same loop as they did in life. And it's going to be like that for eternity, for the end of time. Because for people that are criminals that have done absolute hellish things, they're not going to get comfort from heaven. If they even remotely leave the building of the prison, they're going to go to hell. Now, there was a YouTube video that I saw some long time ago of a man who drank tainted water. And he said when he died from the tainted water, he was guided by this hellish imp creature. And this hellish creature had showed him these boxes. These big old cube boxes. And in one of those boxes was Hitler. And but before Hitler, there were a couple of other people that had their own individual boxes. I don't remember who was in these boxes before Hitler, but he saw each one of them going through excruciating hellish pain that they had done to the people. Like, say, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, just for example. Just imagine that Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein were the men before Hitler and Idi Amin. So imagine these three guys, these three evil men, being before Hitler, and these three dictators were suffering the way that they made their people suffer in their own countries. Now, I was in early elementary school, probably 2003, when Saddam Hussein got killed by Americans, because obviously of him being a dictator. He was captured and killed. I don't remember much of Saddam Hussein, but I grew up in a time where Saddam Hussein was a violent dictator. And Gaddafi, I think, died in the late 2010s. Hitler was the last person that this guy saw in the last box in hell. He said that by the time him and this hellish imp got to Hitler, Hitler was suffering the way that all the Jewish people, all the Romani gypsies, all the victims of the Holocaust suffered. He went through the burning process of the incinerators, the gassing of every victim that he killed, the just everything that Hitler did to the Holocaust victims, those who survived and those who did not. This guy said that he saw pure rage on Hitler's face because he said the look he saw on his face was of pure rage, that he thought that Hitler looked like he was absolutely enraged that he's in hell, that he did not want to be here in hell, be there in hell, and that he should have been in heaven for what he did to the victims of the Holocaust. And I'm like, hell no. Hitler did a crime against humanity. He killed billions of people. Millions, if not billions of people. Jews, Romani and Sinti gypsies, or the Romani Sinti people, political prisoners, the Poles, Polish people, political prisoners, just to name a few. He and his Nazi devils had killed millions upon billions of people during the Holocaust. And I'm like, he deserves his own box in hell. That Hitler wanted to be in heaven, but honestly, if you do something so heinous, that if you do something criminal towards people who are not at all Aryan, that is not all German, there's something wrong with you mentally. Because the way that you think is not ideal, but maybe to you it is. But with the concentration camps, I am sure for a fact that all the people that Hitler and his Nazi devils killed in these concentration camps, they're haunting the grounds of these camps. They're going through the same cycle that they went through while they're at these camps. They're going through the hard labor. Phil, quit. God bless. They're going through the hard labor, slave labor, getting on cattle cars and going to their death, going to random fields and getting killed, getting shot, and not going home to their families, or what, they don't have homes anymore because the Nazis evicted them, took them prisoner, and most Jews had to migrate to other countries or something to just get away from Nazis. But if you die you're going to be haunting whichever place you were last at. For the Holocaust victims who were killed, they're going to haunt the places where the concentration camps used to be or are still standing. For those that were shot in these dug up ditches, they're going to haunt those fields, haunt any place that they were killed and buried, because they were killed violently by Nazi devils that didn't care about them because of some weird ideology that these Germans had. And it took years for Germany to rebuild every building that were in cities and whatnot. There was a video that I saw on YouTube, a documentary, saying that Berlin or whatever city it was not finished till like the 1980s, supposedly. So, that is a whole lot of years between the 1940s, like 1945 to the 80s. That is a long ass time. Took several decades to get Germany back on its feet. I know that I talked about a whole lot of different things, from paranormal to whatever else, but life is going to be a hellish place. So, that's all I'm gonna say.